Alright, what's up y'all? Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make 3D motion tracking for your edits. I'm going to be using Element, which is an add-on to After Effects. It costs a little bit of money, but you should be able to find some downloads somewhere on the internet. You can just type in YouTube to find it. I'm not going to show you how to get it, I'm just going to show you how to use it. So what you're going to want to do is first grab yourself a cinematic that you're going to use for motion tracking. I usually just download motion track cinematics off of YouTube, or I would make some in theater mode. This one looks nice because I can have the text floating above that and it'll basically be centered on that. So this is the cinematic I'm going to use. And the first thing you want to do is you want to track your camera of your clip. Now it's not going to show up for you guys. I don't know why it doesn't, but when I right click, you'll get a select amount of stuff here that you can do with this clip. It's not going to show up for you on the screen, at least on the video, but it should show up when you right click. You want to go to track and stabilize and track camera and click on that. In the last video that I made showing how to sync trick shots, I was right clicking on clips and using different things for that, but it wasn't showing up in the video. I don't know why it doesn't do that, but if you just right click on it, just find track and stabilize and then track camera. And it's going to take a couple seconds depending on how long your video is. This is only like a 7.5 second clip, so it's not going to take too long. But once it's done, you're going to get a bunch of little crosses right here. I don't know how to explain it, and it's going to show like circles like this. I usually want to go with one that's flat against this surface. This is about the middle of the video, and I want it to be centered right here. So I'm going to pick one that is centered, as close as I can. If you might not get anything perfect, and that's fine. You could also do control, like hold control and click like in a square in order to get something that you might like. But once you do have that, you want to click on it and then right click and create solid in camera. And it's going to come up with like a solid box right there. This is basically how our text is going to be laid out, and then we will change the position to get it above that box. But for now, I'm going to hide the solid, but make sure you click on the solid layer and press P on your keyboard to bring up the position, because we're going to be using that later. Next, what you want to do is just put in your text and type in what you want your motion track to say. This is going to be a tutorial, so I'm just going to type tutorial. I'm using Gotham Black for my text, or for my font. It doesn't matter what font you use, it's just your preference. I just like how Gotham Black looks. So now that that's typed in, I'm going to hide the text as well. And next you're going to want to make a new solid layer. So you can come up here to layer, new, and then create solid. You can also do Control Y, and it's going to create a new solid for you. I'm going to call it element, because this is where our element is going to be placed. So now that you have all that set up, now it's time for the actual element to be put into play. So now you want to go to Effects and Presets, type in element, and drag it onto your solid layer, and it should get rid of the black screen. Now before we do any 3D text, what you want to do is go to Custom Layers over in the element, go to Custom Text and Mask, and then go to Path Layer 1 and use your text. That's where that's going to go. And then you want to go to Custom Texture Maps, and that is where your cinematic is going to go. So my cinematic is called Motion Track Cinematic. I'm just going to put that there. Until you hit extrude up here. So you hit that and your text should show up if you mapped it right, like how I did with the custom texts and masks. Now that you have it here, I usually don't play with it. I don't like shorten it or anything. I usually just leave it like this. But over here are different settings that you can do if you wanted it to, let's say you wanted it to reflect a little bit. I don't exactly remember how to do it, but you can essentially change a bunch of different things about your text over here. I'm just going to leave it like this because I think it just looks nice on its own. But I am going to add a texture to it. The element itself comes with preset textures. You just go to presets, materials, and physical, and these are going to be like different textures you can throw on your text. This is an ugly one, but I usually go with chrome just because it's reflective and it just looks pretty nice. You can download different textures as well off the internet if you want different looking motion tracking, stuff like that. I am just going to stick with Chrome. That's the one I usually go with, so that is what I'm going to do. And once you have your shader on, if you want to change anything about how the text looks, you can mess around over here. And I'm sure there's other videos on how to make, certain style of motion tracking, but this is just the basics. So I'm going to be done with this, and I'm going to hit OK. After you went through the scene setup, now you should have nothing on your screen. You might see your text, you might not. It all just depends on the video and where you tracked your camera. So mine's not popping up. So what we want to do is we want to go to group 1 and drop that down, and go to particle replicator. It's going to show position X, Y, and Z. So now what you're going to want to do is go to your track solid layer and copy the X, Y, and Z into their slots up here. So the X to the X, Y to the Y, and the Z to the Z. And now you can kind of see it down there. Yes, it is very wonky, and this is not how we want our text to actually look. So we're going to go drop down rotation and particle look, and it's going to be a lot of numbers to choose from, but we're going to start out with particle size, and we're going to drag that up, and now our text is going to be kind of in view and about how big we want it. But it's rotated weird, so we're going to go to the X, Y, and Z rotation. X rotation does that. If you want it to be facing down a little bit, you can. If you want to keyframe it so then over time it like does that little thing, you can. I'm just going to get it how I want it, which is that. Y, we'll spin it that horizontally. So we want it to be facing us right about here. So that's pretty good. And then Z is going to be vertically. So we're going to do that. And so now if we wanted to leave it there, we can leave it right there. But I want it to be above the box, so I'm going to go position Y, and I'm going to drag the Y value up until it's above, and then just play with it now until we get to where we want. So I want it to be a little bit like that, maybe a little bit over to the left, and then increase it a little bit. So now it's not perfect, but you just want to mess around with it until you get it exactly where you want it. And if you tracked your camera right, it should stay that way and be masked to where it's at. So now that's a pretty, pretty standard motion track right there. You can do different effects on it if you want. So like my video takes 2 seconds before it actually starts playing, so I'm just going to shorten that up and then go to when it ends. So that's about how long the motion track really is. I'm actually going to go and show you a little effect that I've been using recently. What you want to do is go to the beginning of the element layer and go to multi-object and enable that, and it's going to give you a bunch of different values. But what you want to focus on, or what I focus on, is this right here, the rotation random. I'm going to keyframe it right there. And then I'm going to go to the end, and I'm going to drag this up. And it's going to kind of rotate on itself. And depending on how high you do it is how much it will rotate. But so now you have that kind of effect. So it's going to start out normal, and then it's going to slowly kind of morph around. And then you can also mess with like X displacement if you want it to do that or go in. You can keyframe that. You can do Y as well. I guess you can't. Never mind. Weird. But you can do scatter multi. I did that in a recent edit where it would start out and then form back in. You can kind of just mess around with whatever you want on here. There's a lot of different things you can do with Element. And lastly, just a quick tip. Let's say you want to sync this to your audio and you don't want it to just be a quick 6-second clip of just slow motion track. Like let's say you want to speed it up, slow it down. It won't let you do it if you use this raw layers. What you want to do is shift and click on all of these so you have all of them highlighted, and then right click and do pre-compose and name it, I'm going to name it tutorial because this is the tutorial motion tracking. And it's going to create this right here. It's going to basically shorten it up. There's not as much layers. It's just one thing. And now if I wanted to use Control-Alt-T and speed it up, I could even slow it down too if I wanted to. And now it would play really slow. If I wanted to make it 1 second long, but make it faster like that, you can do that. You can't do that if you don't pre-compose it first, because then it'll screw up and it just will be corrupt. But that is it. That's just the basics of 3D motion tracking. If this helped you guys at all, leave a like and comment below if you guys want any other tutorials. But thank you for watching.